The Mad Lad actually did it. The prophecy has come true. RuneScape players really will just fight a red cube. Thanks, Nine Rain. So the old school game jam number 6 took place all the way back in October, but they finally got to putting everything together and get it all nice and organized and adding some pretty pictures, and that's what I'm going to be going over in this video. Not all of it though, I'm specifically going to be going over one section, Sanguimancy. Is this going to be some sort of expansion to like ancient magics, like a new kind of blood barrage or something? Cube, big red cube. So getting to the title of this video, Ironman updates are anti-botting updates. Here's a quote from Mod Arcane talking about what he wants this weird jelly thing to be. And he goes off and he says, people have been complaining about fires and blood shards, so wanted to look into different ways to introducing more of those into the game, but you don't want them to run too cheap. So, trying to think of a new thematic way to make things into blood shards, and if you can use other items to create it, that should kind of help stabilize some of the prices. So what he came up with was the blood jelly. Pump an absolute boatload of resources into one massive jelly and snag yourself a blood shard for your time and resources. So to do this, you'll head into the Sisterhood Sanctuary and you'll meet someone who happens to be a little bit of scientist, and they are using a machine to make jellies. These jellies are created by taking blood-related items and throwing them in the vat. The more items you put in, the bigger the vat, the bigger the jelly, which gives you a better chance of obtaining a blood shard. What items might that be? Well, blood runes, vials of blood, and blood essence are probably the ones you're going to be throwing in. Though, the setup for this is supposed to be that you're getting roughly the same value trade going on. So about 10 million worth of a combination of those is what it's going to take to get a blood shard. It's not really like an actual PvM encounter where you're putting in a ton of work mechanically to get rewarded. Now, the setup for this reminds me of a mix between the Scar Essence Mine, which is a place that you can go to get a ton of different runes, primarily chaos, death, blood, and soul runes, and you can basically kind of convert money into large things of runes. So it's basically for high level Ironman. There's not really any profit that's made from doing the high level extracts. So mix that and then throw in the OG creature creation, which is an activity where you make freaks of nature, and you can use that to do things like fight a Spideen. You use sardines and red spider eggs, and you can get a few more red spider eggs. Now, I think with PvM drop tables of the past few years, people don't really do this as much anymore, but this used to be like a pretty decent way to get some supplies. And I know they want to put it in the Sisterhood Sanctuary. That makes a ton of sense. Tie it in with Mauritania, obviously, but I can't help but want there to be some sort of connection to the creature creation to kind of like revitalize it. Like, it'd just be cool to just kind of even put a nod to it. Now, for those who don't use Blood Furies very often, or who are Ironmen, you may not know this, but Blood Furies had at one point been as low as about 4 million, and they're now at least doubled, if not tripled in price, from a point in which people are kind of comfortable with them being there. And there's a funny little thing about MMOs, and that's that some people like to sell very specific things to get their money. There's a very specific class of item that people want to hold value, and that's things that you actually get from doing the task you like doing PvM. A PvMer goes, ooh, I did a bunch of Orcath, I want to make a lot of money from that. I did a bunch of Hunlif, I want to make a lot of money from that. And the things that they use to do those fights, like different kinds of potions or a blood shard, things that they don't want to actually go and do thieving or herb lore to go get those, they want them to be really, really cheap. Or a really big one is like logs. And I mention that because there was a point in time in which logs sold on average for about 15 gold and then suddenly jumped up to over 100 gold. And the thing that people said was, oh, I think there was a bot wave. You see, bots like grabbing whatever they can, and then they flood the GE with it, so the prices go down, and PvMers go, oh, I hate bots, but also I really like it when supplies are really cheap. Now, tying back to blood shards, if you have a lot of bots pickpocketing and killing fires, they're going to get a lot of blood shards. They're going to throw it into the GE, and the prices are going to go down. If you remove those bots, you remove the supply. It's a consumable item. And so a lot of the time, whenever these prices go up, people are like, I think there may have been a bot ban wave. So, Sanguimancy may be able to help just kind of stabilize it. It's not going to go super crazy and make the prices go down a ton, because they want to kind of have some sort of fixed price. I don't know what exactly that's going to be, or like how people are going to feel about that. I mean, the example they gave was 10 million. I don't know if that's the perfect price that it all should always be at, but that should do something. People are calling this an Ironman update because you don't have to do the conventional method to get it, and you don't have to buy it from the Grand Exchange. But also, this means that they can remove more and more bots from the game, and the price shouldn't be changed as drastically. But is that even the solution that they should go with? Honestly, I think that they should do this, but I think that they should do a lot more. There are some pretty good Reddit threads from like several months ago, whenever the prices were fluctuating like crazy, that I want to bring some attention to. So this post from Tim Tebowless does a great job at typing everything that I literally just said right here. He says, "Oh man, the blood shard economy, there's bots. They're everywhere. What are we gonna do? What if we started adding blood shards to the Nightmare into hard mode Theater of Blood?" Nightmare drop table, kinda, and they did do tweaks in between right now and the time that this was made, about 9 months ago, I think is when. So things have improved a little bit, but still, who all do you know that's doing Nightmare all the time? Not a lot of people for me personally. Who all do you know that is doing hard mode theater? Still not a lot for me personally, but I do know there are a lot of people that do TOB at least, whereas I don't hear people talking about doing Nightmare. I honestly think Nightmare's like a pretty fun boss. I really don't care about anything on the table. This is me just like speaking personally. I'm not saying it's a bad table, but it's just like, for my account, I just don't really care. If I was a main, then maybe I would do it so I could just sell some of the stuff, but like, I mostly play on my group iron, so it's just whatever, but at least I could do it and get a blood shard. That would be pretty nice. Another solution they offer is charging the Blood Fury with vials of blood. Now, again, this is from a while ago. I think the Scythe has since surged in popularity in the past 9 months. So maybe tweaking this would be something to do. Maybe something like Blood Essence would be better, or some combination of them. I don't know. But having a way to upkeep it that isn't literally just from the shard, I think that could also be an interesting avenue to look at, especially if we're going to do that anyway. Like, if you're going to be using these supplies to just directly make the shard, then why not just pour this stuff into it without having to fight the jelly? I guess maybe that makes the boss redundant at that point though, and I do kind of like the design of the boss. It's just kind of funny. A big red cube. Or what about making an artificial blood shard? You take an onyx and you take some blood stuff and you put it together, and now you have a blood shard. Again, kind of stepping on the toes of the jelly, but it's basically accomplishing the same goals. And then on the last page, they just say, screw it, whatever. If you don't like putting any of the old stuff to use, why don't you make something new? Why don't you bring in a new source? And that's kind of what they're doing with the blood jelly, but still, it's not actually really doing anything other than converting supplies. It's not something to actually generate new stuff. But again, their whole point in the blog is they're like, we're afraid of making this super cheap, you know, because at a lot of places, this is like the best amulet you could be wearing, or the second best. Like, it's very, very useful. And hopefully now you guys see why, instead of making a single game jam dedicated video, I decided to split up the topics. This one being kind of contentious, a lot of different ways to do it, and also cube. For me personally, I think what I would like to put into the game, like if I could just poof, go ahead and make something, I would put the cube into the game. I do think thematically, it's just kind of a cool and fun thing, doing some blood magic. I like that. I like the idea. I like the aesthetic. I'm glad they went ahead and drew up everything, because I'm kind of on board with it, seeing the design for everything. But I also really would like a blood shard on the Nightmare. Like, I just don't love the drop table for that boss, even after doing Fasani's. Like, I think there's a lot of good there, but it's just not exactly what I wanted. It's not enough to make me actually go and fight the boss. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Do you guys like doing the Nightmare? I would love to know, and I would also love to know what you guys think of the blood shard situation. Are you going to fight a cube, or is it just like too ridiculous? I mean, I think it is supposed to be ridiculous, but like, maybe you don't like it in an ironic platonic way, maybe you just straight up don't like it at all, but it would be really cool if you liked the video. Hit the button, click the like button, please. And that's all I have to say about this topic. Thank you so much for sticking around till the very end. If you want to be updated with the next one, make sure to drop a subscription to the channel, and until then, take care. Goodbye.